been anywhere where I've gone to a position and like the job description says one thing and I'm like, okay, these guys are gonna be high speed, and you get there like all right, I learned this job in 3 weeks. Like, you're asking me this, I'm trying to do help desk. Weird, but that was also but it's, I don't know, man. So I think some people are also not great at interviewing people as well. Like,
from an interviewer perspective, there are those that just aren't good at interviewing. So you're like, yo, what did you ask me? Can you ask that again? I'm confused because you weren't very clear
in what you're asking.
Right. So there is that side as well as, because we focus in on the interviewee, and sometimes the interviewer is garbage.
Yeah.
What's going on, tech team? It is JustMyTechCents, where we talk tech, finance, and lifestyle. I'm WillDoesTech, and I'm joined by my co-host,
JohnnieTech. What's up, tech fam?
JohnnieTech, and a round of applause for JohnnieTech.
Yes, sir.
Showing up today on today's podcast. So, how you doing, man? You doing all right?
Doing all right, man. Pretty good, man.
Good.
No complaints.
Good.
How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I can complain, but I'm not going to. Yes,
go.
sir. All right. So today we're going to talk about lying on your resume, and whether or not you should do that. Is that a moral thing to do? Is it the right thing to do?
Lie on your resume.
If you need a job, you need a job, right?
Right.
But the reason we're talking about this is because I saw a post on Reddit that claims that the reason that you're not getting a job is because you're not lying on your resume, and that almost everybody is.
Right.
So I sent the post to John, and I said, let's talk about this on our next episode of JustMyTechCents. So here we are talking about it, and this post comes from CS Grad Person Man. So CS Grad Person Man, a good job on this post. It was actually a really good post, and it's a lengthy post.
Say that name again one more time.
It is.
What was that, man?
It is CS Grad Person.
CS Grad Person Man.
And he is a top 1%er on Reddit. So it's a lengthy post, but we'll go down to the TLDR. So, bottom line is, he says that people are inflating, exaggerating, and lying on their resumes like you wouldn't believe. Mm-hmm. He says that he or she, or it says man, so
person man
says the vast majority of honest candidates never even make it to the recruiter screening. They also go on to say, I'm noticing it happen more and more. At least 70% of candidates who make it to on-site, every resume has tons of impact, tons of metrics, tons of technologies, yet the candidates can't speak about any of it in the interview. He also goes on to say, I believe the blame is on the hiring side, not the candidates. It's been drilled into your heads to have metrics, impacts, and keywords to beat the ATS and impress recruiters, which is true. Mm-hmm. And then he lastly says, our team is shifting to mostly just hiring people based on references instead, far less risky. So let's talk about that, Johnny. Let's talk about the first thing he says is people are inflating, exaggerating, and lying on the resumes like you wouldn't believe. How do you feel about that?
I think that's all relative in a sense, right? Because when you say they're lying on their resume, are they blatantly lying? Because you said embellishing and lying.
He said inflating, exaggerating, and lying.
Okay, so I think that you're supposed to inflate what you're doing on your resume to a degree. I don't think you should just flat out lie. Like if they say, hey, have you used this software? If you haven't used it, just say no, right? I mean, but if you have used it, but it's like you don't have 10 years of experience in it, then hey, man, you gotta put what you know how to do. You can't disqualify yourself. So I would say it all depends on your opinion of it. Like I said, it's all relative in a sense. But my opinion is, you have to do what you have to do to get the job. In a sense, I'm not telling people to lie whatsoever.
That's what it sounds like.
I'm not telling you.
I'm not telling you what you got to do.
I'm not telling you to lie. But at the end of the day, you definitely need to sell yourself, right? Yeah. So you're not gonna say, well, I know how to do this a little bit, and they're like, no. Do you know Python? Yes, I'm familiar with Python. I've done this, done that, whatever you've done with it. You're not gonna say, well, no, or I just started studying it 2 weeks ago. Like, no, you know it, because half the time you get to the job anyway, the guys you work next to, you're going to be almost the same level as them. They're not, I haven't really been anywhere where I've gone to a position and like the job description says one thing and I'm like, okay, these guys are going to be high speed. And you get there like, you're like, all right, I learned this job in 3 weeks,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I would say if you're going to inflate or exaggerate, that you catch up, right? Mm-hmm. And if you know that you're inflating or exaggerating your resume and you're going to leave it on there for, the hiring board to see, then make sure when you submit that resume that you have a plan to actually go back and become a subject matter expert in whatever area you went and exaggerated. So I would say, as you said, you have to sell yourself. And one of the things that he also says is that I'm noticing it happen more and more, at least 70% of candidates who make it to on-site. Nope, that's not the one I was trying to look at. The next bullet was the vast majority of honest candidates never even make it to the recruiter screening. So again, if you don't inflate or exaggerate, right, then the vast majority
of opportunity,
right?
You're not even gonna get in there, and then it's like, I mean, like you said, you got to fit in, stand out, whatever you got to do to get your foot in that door. Because when you're doing this on your resume is just a marketing tool to get you an interview. So you got to do whatever you got to do to get the interview. Like I said, not saying flat out lie.
It sound like it,
but you need to get an interview, right? So then the interview is where you actually talk to your skills, right? Yeah. So now if you can't speak to those skills, then of course you're gonna look like a liar, and then you're gonna be disqualified and probably disqualified from ever working there again, because your resume will come back across like, oh no, we know this guy, he's a liar, whatever. Yeah. But if you can get there and speak to what's on your resume, so like if you say Python, then speak to what you know about it, right? You can't get there and say, well, I actually don't know it. Then of course, terrible idea to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that leads to the third bullet, which is I'm noticing it happen more and more. At least 70% of candidates who make it to on-site, every resume has tons of impact, tons of metrics, tons of technologies, yet the candidates can't speak about any of it in the interview. And I have seen that time and time again where it's like, well, give me an example. And they just cannot speak to the nuances of what they have listed on their resume. And again, we've been doing this for longer than a day. We sniff you out and we say, you know what, this ain't it. Right. You ain't it, right? You're not a good candidate for this job, and we feel like you have exaggerated or have lied on your resume.
Well, let me ask you a question in general, since you're doing these interviews and things like that. So if a person that came in, you feel like they have embellished on or they've inflated their resume, right? How do you feel about them in the sense of like, okay, this guy actually doesn't know everything that he says he knows? So like, do you feel like there's an opportunity like, hey, he doesn't fit this role, but we can use him somewhere else? Or do you feel like instantly he's disqualified himself for the role?
Yeah, I don't think that he or she has disqualified themselves from the role. I think if they're honest, right? And just me understanding the day and age when it comes to people trying to get a job, that they are willing to do whatever they can in order to actually get an opportunity to sit in front of a hiring board and kind of, talk their piece to try and get the job. I understand that. So, if they are just honest about it, then I'm empathetic to, again, what's happening in today's market. So it's not that they've disqualified themselves. They might have great character, right? And sometimes, as well as I do, you can learn the tools, right? But learning or getting somebody who has a great work ethic, that has great personality, I think that's the harder part of the hiring process. You can have somebody who is a pain in the butt to work with that knows all the technologies, but you don't want to talk to them,
right?
So I mean, there's that. that happens too.
Thought of somebody in your head. You said, I definitely don't want to talk to this guy.
It's a balance, right? I mean, it truly is a balance. So again, when you get in front of a board, you want to represent yourself the best way that you can. And when we feel like you're being fluffy about your answers or you're lying about your answers, then you're going to disqualify yourself. But if you say, you know what, this is as much as I know about Python or about the cloud or whatever technology, and you say, but I'm willing to put in the effort to learn it to the point that you need me to be at, I'm more accepting
so
of that.
Essentially you're saying is like they didn't, by them inflating their resume to a degree, it didn't obviously disqualify them. They were able to, as long as they were still able to come in and speak to what they do know how to do. And I think that's a big piece of it as well. So I'm glad to hear that from someone who's been on the hiring side and spoken to these different candidates.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I mean, since I've started applying for roles and doing different things from graduating college, I've always been told like, hey man, this resume is to sell yourself. So it's like you need to put all the things that you've done on there, even like writing, certain for promotion boards and things like that. You're taking what you've done and you need to make it sound impactful, right? That's what you're supposed to do. Right. So I mean, I don't know when the flip side of it, because I understand what he's saying and what you're seeing, but it's like I don't think that's something that you can really penalize the candidates for.
Yeah, if they're lying, you can.
Right. Yeah, if you blatantly just didn't do something, but if you're like if you did help desk and you put like I helped over 500 users and your company only has 50 people, okay, that's ridiculous. But if you got 500 users, you probably did do that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it sounds good, but
the difference in 50 and 500 users on the network, again, but if you're lying and you say, yeah, I have Security Plus.
Yeah, now that's just crazy.
And I say, all right, let me see, the certificate or whatever, and you say, oh, I lied about that. Right. Okay, you straight up lied.
Right, no, right? I understand that.
So, but I would say I am pursuing Security Plus, I'm pursuing CISSP, I'm pursuing whatever certification it is that you need me to have, and I'm truly pursuing that. So that is a tip on your resume. If you don't have the certification that it says you need to have, then put that you're pursuing it. And then when you get into your interview and they say, hey, so what's your plan? You're saying you're pursuing, CISSP. What is your plan? And actually have a plan.
Exactly.
And talk through that plan. I've asked that question where I've seen people say, I'm pursuing CISSP. And I said, okay, what's your plan? When are you taking it? Have you scheduled it yet? What book are you reading?
Right.
So again, just have that as
you sound like somebody I might have interviewed with, right? It's like when I first getting getting different roles, I had just gotten Security Plus. So, oh, we see you got Security Plus. Can you tell me the answer to this? I'm like,
no, right. So but I understand from a certification standpoint, you are studying for the certification. But if the job says that you need, and let's say it's a government job, and they say that you need to have this certification, you need to have the certification. No, I'm not going to quiz anybody on, what's the CIA triad?
I've had that happen to me, man. These interviews, they really trying to weed people out of there, but it's a good thing. So I'm agreeing with what you're saying. Anything you put on your resume, you need to be able to speak to.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I would say to you, if you were a candidate that was coming in to be hired at, a job that I was working at, why are they asking, if they're getting to that level of detail that they're asking, about a certification, they don't believe you. Right. They just don't. And now they're latching on to something that they can kind of say, well, you know what? We asked you about this and you didn't know how to do it. So you didn't get the job. So I would say I've never been asked any kind of question about any certification that I have, because my interview answers speak to my experience. So it's kind of just checking the block. Okay, he understands cloud, he understands cybersecurity. We don't need to ask him about the CIA triad or anything trivial like that.
I don't know, man, but I think that also has to do with some of the roles you're getting into. Because these are roles when I was fresh out of college, entry level type things. I'm like, you're asking me this, I'm trying to do help desk. Weird, but that was also but it's, I don't know, man. So I think some people are also not great at interviewing people as well. I think they're like, okay, we need you on this on this call. We interview this guy, come up with some questions, and they're like,
you're right.
What's your favorite command?
You're right. You're right. And when you pull back that curtain and you see how the questions are generated, it's like, well, what does this have to do with the job that we are hiring for? It has nothing to do with it. So I mean, you're right. So from an interviewer perspective, there are those that just aren't good at interviewing. So you're like, yo, what did you ask me? Can you ask that again? I'm confused because you weren't very clear
in what you're asking.
Right. So there is that side as well, as because we focus in on the interviewee, and sometimes the interviewer is garbage.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of everything. I've been in the industry for a while. I've seen a little bit of everything, and
But they have the power.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
they do. Like you're trying to come into their company, so you got to kind of fit in.
You're trying to, appease them, be on the good side. It's like,
right.
This dude has no clue how to interview. Right.
You seeing those things, you're like, okay, well, I think we're going a little bit off topic, but I definitely agree with that. It was like, all right, does that have to do anything with lying on your resume? No, not really. But man, it's just the hiring process in general just kind of sucks. But
yeah. Well, and then let's talk about this last point before we wrap it up. It says our team is shifting to mostly just hiring people based on references instead. And that's far less risky, is what he said.
I don't think that's a new thing at all. I think that's not. I think that's been going on.
Yes.
I think you can't even get your resume looked at unless someone refers you. So it don't even matter what you put on there.
Right.
So I mean, kudos to a person, man.
I wouldn't even. Okay, what are you saying kudos for?
I mean, just for making the post and kind of shedding light to what's actually going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the things he's saying, I think he's spot on. Some of the other things, I think he has convoluted some of his points.
Which points do you feel like he's convoluted?
I think the premise of what he's saying is as far as like should people inflate their resume, and because he's basically saying people are inflating their resume, and he sounds like he's saying that's a bad thing, and counting them if you're inflating your resume as lying, right? So I think that he's kind of talking down on it, but it's like this is not something that was created by the candidate. This is something that was created by the hiring managers, and something that these people are just trying to get jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then I think that point is somewhat convoluted.
But he wasn't knocking the candidate though,
right?
As you said before.
But I mean, he's saying that the solution that his company is going to is reference basis, which I think they've been doing anyway.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to bring this up, I think you're saying it in a way to discourage candidates from doing that. I don't know. I don't think you should. I'm not saying they should lie, but when you're taught to write a resume, half the time you're told to do these things.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
and I guess for me, what I got out of it was networking is big, right? Because we know that this has always been going on, and this is just a knock to the resume, right? We've been saying that the resume doesn't get you a job, and it doesn't for these very reasons, right? Because you don't know what the truth is, right? Are they lying? You can find out the truth when you interview them. At the same time, it's like there is time and energy that goes into interviewing, a candidate. So it's like, how do we mitigate that? Right. And again, your references, right? Networking. So I think that is what he's getting at the end of the day, and that doesn't change anything. Right. Right. So I guess you can lie on your resume all day long. I wouldn't say do it. Right. But it's your prerogative, and whatever you feel like is going to get you in the door, then do what you got to do. At the same time, understand that you might get called out based on what's on your resume. Yeah. If it's too good to be true, people are going to be skeptical.
Right. You might not even get an interview from putting too much on.
Right. You might be too good. You might be overqualified.
Right, like, this dude's straight up lying. Right. You might be telling the truth. Like, shouldn't be applying for this role, but. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole hiring process, like we said, it's up and down. But I definitely think person, man, he has some points I didn't necessarily agree with how it's coming out. But I think within the post he does mention some things about like he's not necessarily blaming the candidates, but I think at your first view it's like you're like, okay, well, it's not really the candidates, it's not on them or whatever. But if I feel like he's shedding light on this to try to change how things are done, it's kudos to him for that. But I think that you have to, provide a solution, and there's really no solution for this right now. It's something that you have to do.
You got to network.
Well, okay.
And he's trying to make people feel better, right? I mean, the real reason you're struggling in the tech market, almost everyone is lying. It's not you. It's not you. It's again, people are lying, so it's overinflated the market. At the same time, think about. And I'm gonna just wrap this up. Like bodybuilding, right? You want to be, you want to win, one of the bodybuilding competitions, but as well as I do, in order to win, bodybuilding competition, that's not a natural competition. You got to be taking steroids.
Exactly, yeah.
So again, it's like, how do you level the playing field? And it's like, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Okay, all right. I get what you're saying. So in that sense, I kind of take a step back on person, man, or I get you just shedding light on the situation. Okay, thank you. I'm not gonna go in on it, man. I got you, person, man. My bad.
Anyways, we're going to wrap this up, but we are curious as to what your opinion is about whether or not this is something that is prevalent in the tech community, or even not in the tech community as far as hiring. Are people overinflating their resumes? Are they lying on the resumes? What have you seen? Do you feel like it's right to lie on your resume or exaggerate your resume? We are truly interested in your opinion. I am WillDoesTech. This is JohnnieTech, and we are JustMyTechCents, where we talk tech, finance, and lifestyle. And we will talk to y'all later.
All right. Share, like, comment, and subscribe.
What he said.